Alright, we move the caliper up out of the way over here. Got our 17mm wrench on there, 17. So we're going to try that first one. This is probably going to be more stuck on there than the last time, so I don't know if I'm going to need a hammer or not. But we'll see if we can get you set up for a good viewing angle. And we'll try to get that guy off. Not sure how this is going to go. Ooh, that's rough. Whoa, we're moving the thing. What else we got over here? There we go. It's moving now. Okay, that one's loose. Get this other one. And that one's loose. Okay, cool. So we'll get those ones off here. They're a little rusty, so they take a little extra effort. Wish I would have bought one of these ratcheting ones, but I didn't, so we're doing it by hand. Which is not altogether bad. These, I got a ratchet set, a wrench set from Harbor Freight, which is, I don't know, it's like $8 or something for 8 wrenches, which is nice. Usually I wouldn't buy Harbor Freight because they tend to be fairly cheap, but they're close to my house, and they are cheap, and I don't anticipate doing this all that often, so cheap wrenches are just fine with me. Okay. Alright, so we got those bolts off. Then this piece should just come right off. There we go. That's basically the housing, and we'll talk about that in just a moment and how that's going to house our new brake pads and how that actually works. You can see the gap in there for the rotor. That's just right in there. But anyways, that's off. It's in a safe spot. Now we just got the rotor left. The rotor just is held on by this little screw. In the past, I've tried to get this off and it has not worked, but we'll try using a power drill here in a second and see if we can get that off, but if not, I may just have to drill it out. That piece actually doesn't do anything except hold the rotor on for installation purposes. It won't hold it on when your tire's on. You can see all these spots that are still clean. That's where my tire, my wheel has actually been touching. So when you put all of your wheel lugs back on, it actually sandwiches everything into the hub, and it will hold it on that way. So you don't need this, but you know, it's nice for the guys doing the work if they can get it off, and it'll just hold it back in place like it is now when they go to refit the caliper and the new pads. Alright, sorry it's a little darker. I had to unplug my light so that I could plug in the power drill. But we got a bit in there. We're going to see if we can get this off. Probably not, but... Oh, buddy, this is why you have to do your tires when the wheel's actually down, because otherwise they'll just spin the tire around like this. We're going to have to stick something in there. Luckily I have some metal rod. Put it in kind of like that. That should prevent us from turning. Oh, buddy. You can also get a friend or somebody to hold it in place, but I'm doing this by myself, so let's see if this works. That's great. That's really great. I'm gonna bang it a couple times, see if that'll loosen it up. See rust falling out there. That's not good. That's what we need to replace them. Alright. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So the same thing happened as last time I tried this. I stripped it out, and I'm just going to drill it out. We don't need it, and it'll be easier this way. So we'll be back in a second. head off a bolt. So that's not awesome, but at least it's coming out now. So I think we can drop down our little size here. I was lucky I had these speed outs. These were a big thing a while ago, and like they're on QVC or whatever, that daytime, like, oh, buy this, but wait, there's more kind of TV. But these things are amazing, so definitely get some. Let's see what we got here. I think we'll put in this little guy and should be good to go. Okay. Alright, so here's what's left of that little bolt. The head came off, and there's the shaft. But like I said, we don't need those. We can bring this back down here. And alright, now we got that stupid bolt out that was down in there. We should be able to just take this right off. And there we go. I might need 2 hands for this. There we go. Oh yeah. That's rusty as crap. Here's the new one. Sorry, that's the old one. Here's the new one. Ah, yes. Very nice. Look at that. Nice shiny surface, no rust. As you can tell, there is some oil on there. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But if you look down in here, you can see this is the hub. It's a free wheel because this car's front wheel drive. You do have this dust guard, and back right here is where those 2 bolts were for. Oops, let's flip this around. For this guy. So there's that bracket. It doesn't go on that way. It goes on this way, doesn't it? Yes. Yes. So that kind of fits right in that little cutout, and your bolts go on like that, and it houses everything. So let's talk about why the brake rotor, the new one, has oil on it. That is actually because the manufacturers don't know how long it's going to be sitting in storage, and they want it to last longer, so longer shelf life. But in order to do that, you need to put oil on it so it doesn't rust. It is metal, and like this one, it can rust. But the problem is that you don't want the oil on when you're braking, because then your brake pads, your new ones, won't get any traction and you won't stop. So the solution to that is brake cleaner. This I got at I don't know, AutoZone or something, but all you got to do is clean it off. I like to take this in a rag and spray it on the rag, wipe it off. You don't want to be touching it after that then, so I usually put on some gloves because my hands are kind of dirty and gross. And it's not that this will hurt your hands. You can clean your hands with that. I would not say frequently. That would probably be bad, but this is not going to hurt your hands. What you don't want is to get your finger oils and your hand oils and your dirt on your newly cleaned brake disc. So I'm going to take this out of the bag. We will spray that on the cloth and clean it off. I tried to do it on here last time I did the fronts, and it kind of goofed up my finish on my workbench here, which is fine. It's a workbench, whatever. But we're going to do it on the ground. All right, we got our new brake pad here, brake disc. Jeez. I didn't put on gloves, but I'm just going to not touch the actual braking surface. This centerpiece doesn't matter. This is the piece that goes on your hub and has all the bolts coming through, so it doesn't matter if it's really oily. What matters is this surface here. So after I clean it, I'm not going to touch it. Got the brake cleaner. Just give it an initial wipe down, get some dust off, some dirt and dust. And then spray on here. Ooh. Ooh, smells great. Wipe that down. Nice and good. Don't worry if you get any little fibers on there from your cloth. They'll burn off. They'll get rubbed off. What you don't want is the oil. The oil is the main piece. We'll get the top too, just because it makes it look nice. Let's flip it over. Make sure not to touch anything. A little more spray. Clean this side nice and good as well. it up. Both sides. Okay. Ooh, all right. It smells really great. So now we're just going to take the new rotor and put it back on there. You can align the screw hole with the new screw hole, but you don't have to because you don't need it. But if in the future you want to put one in, or the car people want to put one in, then it's all lined up for them. So there's that, and this is the reason why the screw exists. As you can tell, I can kind of move this a little bit, which will make my installation a little harder, though not that much harder. So if we had the screw in there, it would just suction it. It would set it right up against the hub, and then everything would be in place. But I'm not going to do that because I busted it and I don't have another one. So that's that. Next piece we're going to do is this guy. This is the guy that holds your brake pads. It lets them slide. It also holds the caliper. So let's move up to the bench. All right, if you remember, this is the way it was facing on our car. This was facing the inner part of the car, and this was facing out towards the tire. So this is the actual gap that will go over your rotor. So the rotor slides right in there. Now, you can see right here, there's these little grooves. Yeah. And that is where your brake pads are going to sit. So the brake pads look like this. They have little teeth, or whatever you want to call them, and they fit right in those grooves. Now, the reason that those are there is because when your caliper squeezes the brake pads, they want to slide in and out so that they can grab your brake. As you can see, these ones are pretty dirty and don't want to come out. So that's kind of gross and bad. What I'm going to do is take a wire brush, and we're just going to kind of file down in there. Get some of that crap out. Look at all that stuff coming off. Oh my goodness. That's disgusting. Look at that. Get in there with, whatever you want, but wire brush should definitely do the trick. Once that's nice and cleaned out, do the other side. Now, I could have gotten a new piece like this too, but when you can clean it for, 2 seconds and it'll be fine, then why would you spend the extra money? I don't know. So also clean these top surfaces, because that's also where it slides. And what we're gonna do, that is disgusting. Look at all that. So let's see if that fits any better. Oops. A little bit. Not great. What did I do here? There we go. Let's see how our other one goes. So this is the inside pad. Ooh, that's rough. Maybe might need to clean that some more. In any case, I'm going to clean it up some more, and then we'll get some spray lube. Throw that on there. We're going to use a dry lube though, like graphite or something, because I don't want it running down onto my caliper disc, because if it gets down on the caliper, then I have oil on the caliper, and then that defeats the whole purpose of us cleaning it off. So I'm going to continue filing this, and we'll be back. Whew. So I cleaned it with, I actually cleaned it with this guy over here, because that has a wire brush on it too, and it got it nice and shiny, but it's still pretty tight in there, and I don't like that it's that tight. Actually, that's not so bad right there. So maybe I was just putting it in crooked or something, but what you're going to do is put your pads on there, and they basically just, ooh, come on now. There we go. They slide in and out, or they should slide in and out, I should say. But I'll clean it up a bit more, and I'll start putting the thing back on. All right, so it's even better now. Ow. I think I was just sliding it crooked or something, but you can see it slides in there now. It's pretty tight tolerances. So we're gonna actually put our graphite lube just on these surfaces, those flat bits, and we're gonna give it a little extra sliding ability. All right, well, my graphite spray seems to be MIA right now, but when I find it, I'll put it on here. You just want to do just the tiniest dab, like maybe one drop, just enough to coat the surface so that when you put your pads on, they slide nice and smoothly. Let's go back to the car and we'll put these on. All right, we're back at the car, but before we put the pads on and all that, there's one last step we got to do, and it is a pain in the rear. I'm gonna get this out of the way just so we can show you and not touch it because my hands are dirty. In the caliper, the piston here, you can see, is fairly pressed out. So it's rather difficult, but you have to press it back in. And there are special tools for this. I do not have one. So we're gonna have to figure out some way to do it. I think I'll probably just sit it relatively something like this and then really push on it with a rod, perhaps this one that I have. And it should go back in. But we're gonna have to set this up differently because I can't get any leverage. But basically there are tools that will wedge in between this surface of the caliper and the actual piston, and you can crank it in with a wrench. Crank it in with a wrench, yeah. And it will press that piston back in. You need to do that because as your brake pads wear down, your piston comes further and further out because it has less and less material to push. So that distance changes, but when you put the brand new ones in, you got to push it back in to give it that extra space because now you have this thick of pads instead of this thick of pads. So we're going to push that back in. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, I do not have one of those caliper squishers. It's basically something that will fit between this surface and the caliper surface to like push it back in when you crank on it. So I kind of winged it. I had this really long bolt that was actually from a spring compressor, and luckily I had a massive washer that just barely fits between these caliper tabs here. So we got a wrench holding the nut on this side so it doesn't turn, and I'm turning the bolt over here with a different wrench that is then pressing in the caliper piston. So we'll see. I don't know if I'll be able to show you this because it's kind of in a terrible spot. Maybe something like that. Don't know, we'll see. Alright guys, I kind of goofed here. I don't have a piston compressing tool, but also on these rear brakes, the front brakes that I've done, I could just shove them back in. These ones actually have these little tabs here. Hopefully you can see them. And you actually have to screw it in. So I've been using needle nose pliers as like a tool to turn it, and you turn it and that allows you to push it in some more. So this is gonna suck, but just beware of that. All right guys, update. I know we were just talking about, actually I'll just put this in right where the clip is. So yeah, I know I just said that you could use a specialty tool to turn in those pistons, or I was doing it really the hard way with needle nose pliers, putting them in each of those grooves and turning it. Another way that you can do it, I'm on the other side now, but you can actually go in from the side. Let's see if we can get that to rest. Go in from the side and use like channel locks or pliers, these guys here. So you can go in from the side and grab on the edge and turn it. The only problem is that you got to be really careful because you don't want to damage the rubber seal, because that's keeps a lot of the liquid in, the oil in. But it's pretty easy to push back just a little bit, and then you can grab on the edge of that metal piece and crank it in. So that's a much easier way if you don't have the right tool, like I didn't. And then once you crank it in, then it's real easy. You just put everything back together the way it was. Also, I think I forgot to mention, well, I will forget to mention at the end of the video, to put back in your spring. So just don't forget about that. That tucks right in where we took it off, in these two holes, and then tucked up underneath the other pieces. So carry on. All right, I got the piston hopefully compressed enough. because that was a pain in the rear. Put back on the mounting bracket, and we're gonna see if we can get the brake pads in. If not, I'm gonna have to continue cranking on that piston, see if we can get it in further. But for now, the back bolts are on, new rotors on, and we'll see if we can fit it in. Holy cow, guys and girls, that was freaking hard. But the caliper is back on. I'll put the slider bolts in and we'll be good to go. So all that we did really was, see if we can adjust this light here a little bit. Maybe not. But we put the rotor on, then we put the little housing on, the holding bracket for the caliper. Then we put in the brake pads, put them on either side of the rotor, and then we took the caliper and just kind of slipped it over the top like this. So that's in there now. I'm going to put in the slider bolts here and down here, tighten everything up, and then put the wheel back on. Then that one should be good to go. Then I still have a second one to do tonight, so that's going to be super exciting. But there you have it. That's how you change your brake pads and rotors. If you don't have the tools, honestly, just take it to a shop, because that was a pain in the butt. But personally, I like doing it for the experience and sharing it with you guys, so you're getting to experience my pain, and hopefully it'll help you out so you don't have to deal with this. But good luck.